Welcome back to the Space Gulag, my friends. Today we're back with another Star Wars theory at your favorite hangout place, PPSW, and today we are doing What If Qui-Gon Jinn was the Chosen One? This one I'm really excited about. This one I spent a lot of time working on, and I did a lot of research for, so I do hope you guys like that, what I do with this. Also, I do all mine based on what we know from canon, so if you know something from Legends, I'm not using Legends, I'm using canon in this. Before we go any further though, subscribe to these channels, they're awesome. I'm going to be doing some more collaborations with them in the near future. Also subscribe to me if you want to get a chance to win a free lightsaber. Anyways, let's get straight into the theory. Today, we will take a look at what could have happened had Qui-Gon Jinn been the Chosen One. The story of Skywalker has already been told, but what could have become of the story of Jinn had he been the Chosen One? Qui-Gon, having been so different because of what he learned from his master, could have changed the outcome of what it meant to be the Chosen One. So, let's kind of get straight into this. Qui-Gon was born on Coruscant in 80 BBY, and was immediately discovered by the Jedi Order. As a youngling, Jinn showed a lot of promise as the young Chosen One. He would excel through all of his exercises, and during lessons with the Grand Master, he would show his worth. Though, the Jedi Council was actually welcoming of Jinn. They were extremely watchful over what he did as a student at his time in youngling training. Since Jinn was at the temple since birth, he was very emotionally tied to the teachings of the Order. He was very good at being a Jedi when it came to morals and obeying the code. As Jinn was at the top of his class, and the Chosen One of course, it was time for him to be selected. As a Jedi would choose to train Jinn, and that Jedi would be Dooku. Dooku was Grand Master Yoda's final apprentice. Dooku was a bit off the rails though. He didn't exactly see eye to eye with the Council. Dooku was even offered a role in the Jedi High Council, but denied it because he didn't agree with the Jedi's ideals. Though Dooku was going to train Qui-Gon, the Jedi's foreseen Chosen One, meant to bring balance to the Force. Dooku saw this as a high honor, but he wanted to make an impact for the future of the Jedi. Dooku would teach Qui-Gon what he could to progress the young Chosen One's journey to become a knight. Dooku would teach Jinn how to duel, as Dooku was one of the Order's finest duelists. Dooku would fill the young Jedi's mind with personal opinions regarding the Order and their disposition to the Republic. Dooku would take his apprentice outside in front of the Jedi Temple, showing his apprentice the grand landscape of Coruscant. He would tell Jinn that the Republic was governed by the Senate, but the Jedi are not politicians. The Jedi's job is to protect those around the galaxy, not to serve its elite. And then Jinn turned around as his master showed him the temple that stood behind him. Dooku would tell his apprentice that this ivory tower that the Jedi hid in was a great temple, but it reflected the Jedi's outlook on the galaxy. The temple showed that the Jedi were overconfident in their ability to protect the galaxy, that the several thousand Jedi here at the temple weren't truly serving the people of the galaxy. The lessons that Dooku taught Jinn were very important and pivotal to how Jinn would feel about the Order as he grew older. But Jinn was still young, and he lacked faith in himself. One night, he awoke his master and confronted him. Dooku felt that his apprentice had fear, and so Dooku naturally asked why it was that the boy was fearful. The young Jinn hesitated, and then admitted that he was fearful and frightened. Dooku asked why his apprentice was afraid, asking if Jinn was afraid of him. Jinn denied this question, and told his master that he was afraid of not living up to the expectations of the Jedi, and not being truly worthy of being the Jedi's Chosen One, who was meant to bring balance to the Force. Dooku told his apprentice that Jinn was not afraid of himself, but that Jinn was afraid of not reaching the future he wanted, and Jinn actually agreed with this, and then told Dooku that he was afraid that Dooku would reject him. So Dooku knelt down in front of his Padawan and told him he was very wise for admitting his fear. He told Jinn that he was very proud of his Padawan for his insight and knowledge, telling him that even though he might be the Chosen One, he will become a very wise and powerful Jedi. Jinn went back to his room with this and meditated. Months would pass, and Jinn continued to excel in his training. Dooku would try his best to train the young Chosen One to become the best Jedi that he could become, though Dooku was unaware that the High Council was continuously overseeing how he was teaching the Chosen One. Because the Council didn't want Dooku influencing Jinn to go off the rails, they stepped in, rather unhealthily though. They would go behind Dooku's back and approach Jinn in his room, and tell him that Dooku's ideals towards the Jedi Order were wrong, that the Council didn't realize they were confusing the young Chosen One and leading him into a line of secrecy. The Council members who approached Jinn told him not to tell his master about their interactions, and Jinn listened. But he knew he couldn't lie to his master. His master caught on to what the Council was doing, and asked his apprentice. Jinn was afraid that his master would be mad at him for it, but he told Dooku the truth. Dooku was appreciative for his apprentice's honesty. He told Jinn that the Jedi wanted him to follow their strict guidelines and not feel with the Force. Dooku expressed in a new lesson regarding the Jedi Order that the Jedi felt the Force, but they didn't feel with the Force. Jinn was very confused by this, but Dooku clarified what he meant. Dooku's master, Yoda, was very powerful with the Force. He felt the Force. He was able to believe what the Force was telling him, but he didn't trust his instincts. Jinn had to trust his instincts, regardless of what the code suggests. Regardless of what the Jedi's politics are, Jinn needed to trust the Force around him. Yoda played by the rules of the code and was in consistent fear of falling down a path of darkness. Jinn needed to not embrace the darkness, but be aware of its presence in the galaxy, in the Force, in the living Force surrounding him. But it was Jinn's job as the Chosen One to bring the Force back into balance. But if he neglected the darkness, he was allowing himself to become an agent of it. Jinn understood, but Dooku knew that Jinn needed to not just understand, but feel. So Dooku took his young apprentice across the galaxy to a planet filled with the Force. Dooku took Jinn to the planet Dagobah and showed Jinn a cave. Jinn told Dooku that he felt cold, that there was something dark that was inside of the cave. Dooku then again repeated what he had told Jinn on Coruscant. Trust your instincts, trust in the Force, do not fear the darkness. Jinn nodded to his master and entered the cave alone. Inside the cave, Jinn was embraced with the Force, but he saw nothing but darkness. And from around him, a cloud of darkness grew, and he saw darkness that would consume the Jedi. He saw what would become the galaxy if the Jedi continued down their path. But most importantly, he saw that his master was no longer by his side. Before he knew it, he saw himself and his master facing each other. A duel of the fates between master and apprentice. Though Jinn was troubled by this, he went further into the cave, and he saw a vision of himself. A vision of himself deciding the fate between fighting and not fighting. Jinn exited the cave and found his master kneeling on the ground. Jinn told his master about what he had encountered. Dooku was troubled by the duel his apprentice had mentioned. It was troublesome to imagine that he would fight someone he cared for, like Jinn. Dooku took Jinn back to Coruscant, and on their voyage through hyperspace, Jinn confronted his master, asking him if he would ever leave the Order. Dooku told his apprentice that he did not believe he would, but if he felt the Jedi were failing to live up to their role in the galaxy, then he might. Jinn felt conflicted by his master's answer, but chose to move on from it and continue his training. Within a few more years, Jinn became a knight. He was rather young to pass the trials, but he was the chosen one after all. Now that Jinn was an apprentice, the High Council decided that Jinn should be involved with High Council members on missions. They wanted to influence Jinn to stray away from Dooku's teachings. Dooku had told the Council to back away from his apprentice, that they were only going to hurt his development into a Jedi, that the Council was corrupted by the politics of the galaxy. The Council didn't believe Dooku, but they honored him by staying away from Jinn while he was an apprentice to Dooku. When Jinn became a knight, they decided that they could influence him into the Jedi they wanted him to become. They took Jinn out on missions, but little did the Council realize that Jinn was more advanced and knowledgeable than them. Council members struggled to convince him of their ways. Jinn was incredibly insightful, and when he caught on to what the council was doing, he confronted them. Jinn told the council that they were going down a path of ignorance, that their ability to see through the Force was diminishing, and they were distancing themselves from the people in the galaxy. Jinn then told the council of what he had encountered on Dagobah, telling them that he had foreseen the Jedi falling into war and losing their way if they continued to allow themselves to be pawns of the Galactic Republic. Many of the council dismissed the young man. They were either taken aback that the Chosen One thought he could tell the council what to do, or they just didn't believe him. The council's ignorance showed through their inability to listen to what the Chosen One had to tell them. Jinn began to distance himself further and further from the Jedi Code. Though, as a decade passed, Jinn felt a disturbance in his former master. So much like a child, he confronted his master. Dooku seemed impatient, as if he were tired of playing the games the council wanted him to play. Jinn then calmed down his former master to ask him what it was that was bothering him. Dooku told Jinn that he was ready to leave the Order, and Jinn pleaded with his former master and asked him to reconsider his choices, but Dooku knew it was time for him to leave the Order. This troubled Jinn a great deal, but he had a new responsibility. He was now a Jedi Master, training Obi-Wan Kenobi. Jinn was at the point of breaking past the power of Master Yoda and was ready to teach his apprentice all he had learned. Obi-Wan was a great apprentice. Qui-Gon truly believed in his student, and Obi-Wan was always willing to learn from his teacher with excitement and eagerness. The only thing that troubled Qui-Gon is that the Jedi Code was very a part of who Kenobi was. It didn't make Kenobi bad, but it did make him very Jedi-like, and Jinn had no problem with this, but he always was trying to help Kenobi be the best Jedi he could be. As for Jinn, the next decade would be one of growth between master and apprentice. Jinn was peaking at his highest level of strength he could have ever achieved, and as 32 BBY came around, there was trouble within the Order's High Council. One of its leading members, Sifo Dyas, started acting out of sorts. He was spending a lot of time with the current Chancellor of the Galactic Republic. Jinn decided that he and Kenobi should investigate this, secretly. As they followed Sifo Dyas into the underbelly of Coruscant, his ship was redirected towards the Outer Rim. This voyage was shortly lived as a pike ship shot down the ship that was carrying Sifo Dyas and Silman over the moon of Abu Dia. Silman survived the crash by escaping out of an emergency survival capsule. Jinn followed the capsule to its landing position as pike ships landed around it. They were going to capture the Chancellor's personal aide, but before they could, Qui-Gon and Kenobi jumped out to stop the pikes. They ignited their blades and asked why the pikes would shoot down a Republic vessel. They revealed that they were paid to do so, but they did not reveal who had done it. Jinn told the pikes that he would pay them to leave Silman alone, and to reveal who had ordered the death of Jedi Master Sifo Dyas and Silman. The pikes, unable to deny the payment, told Jinn and Kenobi that a man by the name of Tyrannus ordered the death of the two. Jinn didn't know a Tyrannus, but he did find a hologram with Silman before Silman could gather himself together. Qui-Gon took the hologram and sheathed it in his belt. The three of them made their way into the Jedi shuttle and left the moon with Sifo Dyas' dead body and his lightsaber for memorial. Though, on the voyage back to Coruscant, Jinn separated himself from Kenobi and Silman to listen to what the hologram had on it. What Qui-Gon heard was earth-shattering. Sifo Dyas confessed on this hologram that he had commissioned a grand army of the Republic. As the Pikes told Dooku that they were paid off by 2 Jedi, Dooku expressed nothing but anger and disappointment. If Silman told the truth, the entire plan to wipe out the Jedi could be erased. Meanwhile, Jinn and Kenobi returned to Coruscant with Silman and Stowe. while they also returned to the Order to let the Council know that Jedi Master Sifo Dyas had died. Jinn had to make a decision though, whether or not to tell the Council about what he had found on the hologram. Jinn decided that if the Council found out, the Order wouldn't be able to stop this plot, this army of the Republic. Instead, he decided he should search for Kamino himself. When he went to the Jedi Library, there was no file on record about Kamino, a dead end. But maybe Silman knew, which of course, he had no clue. Chancellor Valorum, though, knew of a planet named Kamino, and he gave the Jedi coordinates to the planet, to which Jinn again took his apprentice. The two Jedi found themselves on a rainy planet where they would land on the surface of a platform and enter the ice-white corridor of the cloning facilities. When they entered, they were greeted by a Kaminoan who asked why they had returned so soon. Unbeknownst to the Jedi, another ship was landing elsewhere on the cloning facility's ground. Jinn felt coldness in the Force, mixed with familiarity. He continued on with the Kaminoan, who was informing the Jedi of the plans for their largest cloning project ever. There was nothing started yet. They were waiting for the giver of the genome, informing the Jedi that a man named Tyrannus was getting a bounty hunter to be the base of the clone trooper cloning program. That name again. Tyrannus was in this deep. When the two Jedi finally crossed paths with a bounty hunter, they were also greeted by a man named Tyrannus, Jinn's former master, Dooku. Jinn was heartbroken that his former master had fallen so far in the 10 years since he had left the Order. They began to debate. Dooku believed that the Jedi needed to end, and while Jinn thought the Jedi were corrupt, this was not the way to do it. Dooku tried to have Jinn see it his way, but Jinn wasn't breaking. Jango seemed to be done with this debacle as well, though the conversation wouldn't end peacefully. Dooku would tell his apprentice to forget about what he had seen here on Kamino. Kenobi, being as boisterous as he was at this time, told Dooku that they wouldn't, that there was something off here. Kenobi ignited his blade, and with him, Jinn did as well. Dooku ignited his blade, and everyone else dispersed. Jango could have easily joined in, but he wanted to see where this went. Jinn and Dooku were fine duelists. Both of them capitalized off of each other's follies. Jinn, though, was extremely powerful in the Force, and he matched every move Dooku had made. He had known Dooku for long enough to be able to parry every move he had made. The battle was short between master and apprentice. It didn't take long for the 60-year-old chosen one to beat his former master. Kenobi took Dooku's lightsaber as they forced him to surrender, and Dooku obliged. The two Jedi told the Kaminoans that there would be no Grand Army of the Republic and that it was time for them to cancel the Republic's order. The Jedi were going to stop an all-out galactic war. En route back to Coruscant, Jinn tried understanding why or how Dooku became allied with the Sith. Though he knew that Dooku wasn't the Sith Lord, that he was just a pawn. Jinn tried to get his former master to tell him everything he knew, but Dooku wouldn't budge. He had failed. The plan to kill the Jedi was now out of the realm of possibilities. Dooku was sent all the way back to Coruscant until he was apprehended by the Jedi Council. Jinn relayed what he had known about the plot and death of Master Sifo Dyas. While the Council seemed grateful, they had another mission for Jinn and Kenobi, both of which were immediately dispatched to Naboo. Most of the events of The Phantom Menace play out rather similarly here, until Tatooine. Anakin still exists, but he's not the chosen one. While the Jedi are escaping Tatooine, they are chased by a Sith. Jinn decides to fight the Sith, not knowing if this is the Master or the Apprentice. A duel in the sands of Tatooine told Qui-Gon one thing: that Darth Maul was not the Master. The plot surrounding the imminent return of the Sith was thicker than Dooku and this Darth Maul. Kenobi left the Naboo ship and helped his master in dueling with Maul. Darth Maul fought like a young man, and so Jinn figured that he wasn't the Master, but he still had to defeat the warrior from Dathomir. Jinn was able to best Maul and kill him with a decisive blow. While Kenobi tried to motion Jinn to get back onto the Naboo ship heading for Coruscant, Jinn denied the request. He went to Maul's speeder bike and found it had a homing tracker back to Maul's starship. Obi-Wan opted to come with Qui-Gon and was allowed to follow. The two Jedi arrived at Maul's starship and entered quietly and carefully. Jinn went into the ship's recent landing database and found there were two consistent planets, Coruscant and Naboo. Jinn then found recorded holograms, messages sent from Maul's master. Jinn and Kenobi watched as a hooded man by the name of Sidious expressed crucial needs for their grand plan to work. Sidious told Maul to meet him on a Lucrehulk battleship outside of Naboo, so that's where the Jedi needed to go. Palpatine waited eagerly for the return of the Queen of Naboo. He planned his quick detour to Naboo, as the siege of Naboo seemed to have ended in victory for the Trade Federation. When the Queen arrived, he greeted her and discussed strategy in convincing the Republic to back the people of Naboo against the Trade Federation. These talks lasted a few hours. The two Jedi, Jinn and Kenobi, waited, but Jinn didn't want Kenobi getting involved any further from here. Jinn loved his apprentice and deeply cared for him, but he knew this trip to follow the Sith Lord needed to be one for him to take alone. Then Palpatine moved to his personal shuttle, and Jinn followed. The ship would blast through hyperspace and eventually land in the hangar bay of Lucrehulk over Naboo, and while on the ship, Palpatine awaited for his apprentice, Maul. He was ready to tell Maul that he had killed his master, Darth Plagueis, but Maul never showed. Instead, a Jedi arrived. Palpatine was disappointed that Maul had done so poorly against the aging Qui-Gon Jinn. But Jinn was here now, before the most powerful dark side user in the galaxy. Powerful light versus powerful darkness. Though Jinn wasn't light, he was balance. Palpatine took this moment to try and kill Jinn. Their duel began. It was fierce. It was a fierce contest of lightsaber strength. Luckily for Jinn, he was trained by one of the Order's most powerful duelists. Jinn was also the chosen one after all. Their duel led from a gathering room through the hallways. Palpatine pushed an offensive on Jinn, but he was holding his own very well. The duel was deadlocked in battle. Jinn would gain some offensive, and Palpatine would gain other offensives. This duel raged throughout the entire Lucrehulk battleship. It was an even display of the two's power, though the battle took an upper hand when they reached the ship's reactor. Palpatine took the upper advantage by shoving Jinn to the ground, but Jinn didn't do what Palpatine expected him to do. Jinn didn't try and get back up and finish the duel. He slipped back and closed his eyes. Palpatine readied his blade to kill the Jedi's chosen one. As the blade swung down from the air to connect with Qui-Gon, he flipped a lever using the Force. Palpatine's blade cut through the robes of Jinn, but there was no body left behind. In a state of confusion, Palpatine checked the robes of the fallen Jedi to find nothing, but it didn't matter. It was all a distraction from what was really happening. The Lucrehulk exploded from the inside, evaporating Palpatine. The Sith had spent millennia trying to return, and Qui-Gon was able to rid them from the galaxy at the end of his life. Qui-Gon became one with the Force, leaving it up to Obi-Wan to reveal to the Council what had happened to the Senator of Naboo, Sifo-Dyas, and everything that Dooku would never reveal regarding Kamino. Everything that was meant to plunge the galaxy into chaos was undone. The Force was brought back into balance by Jinn, who ridded the galaxy from the Sith. Dooku would be imprisoned for the rest of his life, and for the Jedi and the state of the Republic, that is up for you to decide. Wow. So, tell me what you think about that theory. Honestly, I think this is one of the best ones I've written. I used to say that almost every video, but honestly, I think this is one of the best ones I've written. If not the best. I mean, I really tried my best on this one, and yeah, I really am proud of this one. I think this one tells a really, really, really decent story about Qui-Gon. I think it carries a lot of elements from canon, which is what I try and do, but I think at the heart of it, it tells the whole meaning of Qui-Gon as a chosen one, and I tried to do my best with the scene on Dagobah where he's, envisioning the choice between fighting and a sacrifice, and the sacrifice is to bring balance to the Force. he needs to die as well. He needs to be the one that balances everything out. His life is going to balance not just the Jedi out or the Sith, but just bring balance to the galaxy, bring balance to the Force. And I think that's what Qui-Gon in this situation would have been going for. He would have been like, well, I've lost this duel, so I might as well take both of us down. And I like the ending better because I love the idea of Qui-Gon surviving, but I think he would have left the Order if he had survived, to be completely honest. If we had to do a what if of this situation, I would have said he probably would have left the Order if he had survived. But I think the true moral here is that he was more willing to sacrifice his life for the galaxy, for just the people of Naboo, if you want to even look at it like that. Taking out the Lucrehulk stopped the droid invasion of Naboo. So, I mean, it's a sacrifice not just for the galaxy, or Naboo, or the Jedi, but a sacrifice for the Force, and a sacrifice that Jinn felt he needed to make in that moment. And, you know, I think this story was really good, honestly. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like down below. Tell me what you guys thought about this theory. Tell me if you liked it. Tell me if you liked the direction that stories like this went. I try not to include a lot of Anakin and a lot of Palpatine. I wanted this to be more focused on different characters that we don't usually talk about on this channel, some characters that we don't really see a lot. And I think I had done that pretty well. I think talking about Qui-Gon and having Qui-Gon being a lot of the main protagonist here was a lot of fun, honestly, and I very much so enjoyed doing it. So to that, I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did making it. I love you all. Don't forget to subscribe if you want a chance to win a free lightsaber, and always remember, may the Force be with you.